witches.
Hello and welcome to a brand new godlike
Pantheon.
system. Thanks. I forgot the word pantheon, so I'm glad you you helped
It's
me out.
fine. We decided on Egyptian.
Yay!
Which honestly I'm really excited about because side quest, when I was in elementary school, our 6th grade teacher did like a huge project with us every year. Like every year she did it with her 6th grade class. And every year it was in we turned the gym into Egypt.
Oh, stop it. That's cool.
Right. And like different groups had different, like, there was a group that did like Egyptian makeup, and there was one that did like the underworld and like all the different things. My group was the Nile. We had the Nile. And we made a waterfall, which I don't know if there is a waterfall in the Nile or not, but we took like blue paper and streamers and hung it from the basketball goal and then like had it going across the thing. Anyway, we did the Nile. But I
I've
am
never
low-key
been more jealous of
obsessed.
6th grade, somebody from 6th grade than right now.
Yeah. And so it was amazing. And we did ancient Egypt. We also did like medieval times where we did like jousting and shit, but that was new. Egypt was the big one. So
We did something like that too, but it wasn't Egypt, and it was with 10 fucking girls in my 6th grade class. Let's be real.
well, yeah, I went to public school.
Yeah. We went so basically we did the Aztec, Inca, and Mayan cultures. So like we were
Okay.
all split up within like groups. So like the 10 of us are split between the 3 groups, and we each had to cover like a specific section. So like I did war and like their religion or something like that. So I did like war and religion studies. So like we had to pretend to be like I had to be the general, and I also had to
Yeah,
be the
that's what we had to do
priestess.
too.
Yeah. So I had to like teach them about like war from like the Incans and like their religion, which included sacrifices, which I felt really weird about being in a Catholic school first of
Right.
all. But we did it. My 6th grade teacher was very science based, so she refused to teach art. She gave art class to the 4th grade teacher. So
Oh,
when we had art, when the 6th graders had art, the 4th graders had science, and we just flipped our
okay.
teachers. That's how it was. But
Got you.
so that's cool. We did something similar.
Yeah.
I bet you that's like a
A
Indiana
standard or
standard.
something.
I
Yeah.
was gonna say 4th grade, everybody learned about fucking Indiana. Indiana everything. 5th grade, I don't give a fuck. I don't remember. 6th grade, other cultures. I bet you.
Yeah. The only thing I remember about 5th grade is that I was in 5th grade in 2001. So September 11th is the only thing I remember
I was in
about 5th
3rd
grade.
grade.
Yeah.
I remember
Yeah.
that.
That's all I remember. And we had just got new TVs and like big box TVs like up in the classroom.
Yeah.
Because
Yo, we rich as fuck. Look at us.
yeah, so we just watched fucking people jumping out of the towers and shit. But anyway, moving on back to Egyptian mythology.
I was fucking in Disney when that happened.
Yeah. I was at school and we watched it on TV.
Yeah, I watched it in the hotel room after they said there was a bomb threat, and I was like, dope, let's go. I remember as a 3rd grader, I was like, I'm not glad that it happened, but I'm also glad it happened because I got to have a pool day because the parks were closed and I didn't have a choice about going to whatever. Listen, I was a 3rd grade, probably autistic, didn't notice.
Right. And
Didn't know the
you
difference.
don't understand at that age, like the severity. All I remember is that all of the adults were crying. Everyone was crying and it was scary.
Like I was feeding off my parents' anxiety, and like that's when my grandma was like, all right, let's go to the pool.
Yeah.
So I was like, yay, pool day.
And then we went to 6th grade when we did Egypt.
Yay.
So today I'm going to talk about Noon, Naunet, and the Primordial Waters. I was just going to talk about Noon, but Naunet is a very short part, but it's hard to talk about Noon without her. Also, part of me wonders Never mind. That doesn't make any sense.
Okay.
So Nun is like the water god, and Nun is spelled Nun, but
Nun.
Nun.
Nunya.
But he is a representation of water. So there were no like priests or temples specifically devoted to him, but he was represented at every temple by a sacred lake or some type of body of water in the temple. Egyptians believed that he existed in every particle of water, and he formed the source of the river Nile. So he's like, nothing could exist without him, basically. He also was associated with the foundations of every temple. There's speculation about why this is, but it's most likely, historians believe, that it's because the Egyptians, and they didn't have levels like the tool, a level that we have now. So they used water. They would put like a little bit of water on the foundation.
So
Right, like
how advanced they are compared to other I mean, there's other civilizations that are just as advanced at this time, but like,
yeah. Well, and like
paved the way.
Even thinking now, like, would I think to put a drop of water on something to see if it was level? No, I wouldn't fucking think of that. I mean, maybe if I didn't have other tools that would do that, but that's just not what I think of. So anyway, that's why some historians believe that they associated him with the foundations of the temples. I kind of also was like, well, he is kind of where all of the gods come from, sort of. So, like, is that why he's the foundation? Because he's the foundation of all the gods? But I don't know. He is represented in a couple different ways, depending on which of the different, like, epics, I guess, you go by. In some, he's either a frog or a frog-headed man. That is the one that I've seen most common, like in pictures or like pictures of cave paintings or not cave paintings. That's
hieroglyphics.
Yeah, like hieroglyphics and like the various paintings on like tablets and the pyramids and stuff.
Paintings on the walls, the hieroglyphics on the walls.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah.
I'm not cave paintings though, but yeah, you're right.
Yeah, you see like the picture of like the person with a frog head. He's also been depicted as a bearded man with either blue or green skin. So either way, he's like amphibious. And he often is depicted either standing on a boat or rising out of the water and holding a palm frond. So that is known. That's not any stories including him. That's just a basic thing about him. And then Naunet is a representation of the sky over the primordial waters and is considered the feminine counterpart of Nun. She is not often described as a personified deity. She's more of a abstract concept, I guess, and she's not often referenced without referencing Nun. They're almost always referenced together. She is, though, sometimes described as the mother of the sun god, along with the composite deity Nun Ptah, which we're not going to get into right now because that was a whole rabbit hole I went down and would have made this episode a year and a half long. But we will come back to it later in another episode. Or it might be in this episode. Anyway, the primordial waters. Egyptians had many different creation myths because it was a very, like, it was a big society, right? Like, it's not a small civilization. Um, but in all of those creation myths, they agree that the universe came from the primordial waters. Um, and a lot of the legends maintain that at the end of the world, everything will go back into those waters. I forgot to look up how this word is pronounced, but the Ogdoad, it's one of the epics, one of the histories, consisted of 4 frog-headed male gods and their serpent-headed female counterparts. This group represented the dark, watery unknown and the eternal state of the cosmos prior to creation. Nun and Naunet represented water. Het and Howhet represented the notion of infinity. Kek and Kauket stood for darkness. Amun and Amunet reflected the concept of hiddenness. And these 8 gods existed in the primordial waters. The Egyptians believed that these 8 gods came from a cosmic egg, which is why earlier when you said something about the magic egg, I was like, what the fuck?
I love that.
So these Egyptian gods, these 8 gods, came from the cosmic egg that contained the deity responsible for creating the rest of the world, including the primordial mound, which is the first land to rise out of the waters before people. Then, after the mound appeared, a lotus blossom bloomed, signaling the birth of the newborn sun god, which I did not go into deeply because I believe Emily's going to talk about that. But basically, after the sun god made his first appearance, the rest of creation follows. In some cases, the lotus flower opens and a scarab beetle comes out. And the scarab is like a solar symbol. So when the scarab comes out, that beetle transforms into a child. When the child cries, his tears become humans. But that's just one version of the story. But that is Nun, Naunet, and the Primordial Waters.
Nice.
Yeah. It's a short little one for this first Egyptian episode. I know we're not done. You still gotta do yours, but like mine was short.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So I'm going to be talking about Ra, Atum, and the emergence of gods and the divine connection to humanity. I'm also going to give a little snippet of like the historical connection and like kind of like a modern connection between all of them as well. So, because I feel like Egypt has such history in everything they do over there that it's, you kind of have to bring the modern world into it at some point. So, cool. I wasn't ready. Okay, so it's fine. I was trying to like prep the old podcast while I was like not old podcast, but like the episode while I was like listening to it, and then you were like, "Yeah," and that is. I was like, "Oh, ready." Okay, so I'm first going to talk about Ra, the eternal sun and cosmic guardian. So imagine the vast Egyptian desert, like hot, endless, golden, all of that, like Arabian Nights, Arabian Days, like from Aladdin. Like, kind of think of that. Like the horizon blazes as the sun climbs up higher and like filling the world with light. So, according to ancient Egyptians, that was not just nature at work, that was Ra. So, Ra is known as the god of the sun, and he essentially wakes from the horizon, igniting the sky, and essentially governing the rhythm of life itself. He wasn't necessarily he wasn't simply a celestial force. He was the architect of order, is what they called him. So he was the protector against chaos. As he traveled across the sky in his divine boat, is how he preferred traveling. He ensured that existence itself had remained intact. So I wouldn't say he's like god of all gods, but like he's pretty fucking close. So each night as dusk fell, his journey became quite perilous. He was forced into the Duat, or the underworld, where darkness reigned. There, he battled Apophis, the great serpent of disorder, whose sole mission was to overcome light and plunge the universe into chaos. So Egyptians believed that with each sunrise, Ra had triumphed once again, bringing renewal, hope, and certainty that life would continue. Talk about having a new spin on life every single day. New day. Like new day every day kind of thing. So in terms of like historical connection, Ra's mythology was more than just a story. It actually shaped the rule of Egyptian kings, known as pharaohs. So they were believed to embody Ra's power on Earth, acting as his extension in human form. So this divine rule reinforced their absolute authority, uniting religious belief with political control. So, and that's kind of like Pharaoh was God sent, essentially. Like, sent from the gods to rule over them, and anybody underneath them was, like, okay to continue to rule. Which, not always the best. And I'm sure, I don't know if we'll ever get into it, but essentially there was a lot of, like, incest. Which, is King Tutankhamun on this? Because I like to speak about him.
Probably.
He my fave. And that poor guy, he had a lot of incest in his family. Anyways, so, all right,
I actually don't know if he is, because this is strictly mythology. I don't think it went into like the pharaohs.
Okay.
But we can.
Fine. Okay. Listen, when you said that you had like a 6th grade thing that you did in terms of like the Egyptian thing, I got real fucking jealous all of a sudden, because I can think of 6th grade, I had to do the fucking Incans. I think I was Aztecs, but like, still. Damn it. I was so obsessed with like Egyptian shit. No, listen, I was so obsessed with like ancient Egypt as a child. Like, I vowed I was going to be an archaeologist. I vowed I was going to be an Egyptologist, something along those lines.
Oh my god, I did too.
Yeah,
but I wanted to do like
from like the day
dinosaurs.
I was born. Oh, okay. You wanted to be an archaeology or paleontologist. That's what they're called. I wanted to be an Egyptologist. I wanted to go dig out the shit. And let me tell you, when you don't have supportive family, like, it really kills your fucking dream. Like, hence why I've changed so much.
It really fucking does.
But, yeah. So
that's not realistic.
I don't give a fuck. Okay, hold on. Yours probably said that wasn't realistic. Like, my dad tried to scare me into not doing it. Like, my dad tried sitting there saying, like, because I was like I was teaching them about like Tutankhamun's curse and like all this bullshit, and I was teaching them about it in Will, and my dad goes, not Will will be like, yeah, do it. My dad goes, well, what if that curse is real? What if that curse is real and you go over there and that curse is real? Bitch, I will summon a curse on it.
I was gonna say, what the fuck if it is? Like, okay.
I'm not over there being a dick. That was in the 1920s. You never know what kind of bullshit they were pulling. I'm over there to preserve that shit. It don't matter.
Yes.
King Tutankhamun's gone. He's out of his tomb. But, like, shit, I was so obsessed. Like, I bought all the fucking books about it. I rented all books that I could about Egypt. I even have, like, a little necklace with, like, hieroglyphics with my name on it. Like,
Nice.
I made my parents buy me the fuck. I didn't care if it was dinosaurs. I was like, buy me this dig set from the Children's Museum down in Indianapolis, in Indiana. I was like, buy it for me. Let's do it. And then when King Tutankhamun came to the fucking Children's Museum, I was like, we spending all the money. I was so happy. I was so excited.
Yeah.
So, like, Egypt's my jam, bro. I was so excited when we decided to do this. But anyways, okay, modern connection of Ra. Sorry, West. Okay. Today, Ra's legacy can be seen in a lot of different ways around Egypt. And kind of honestly, it's not like around the world kind of thing, but you can see the similarities around it. But like our cultural reverence for the sun, from like solar symbolism in art and architecture to rituals celebrating the sunrise, it honestly echoes ancient Egyptian traditions. Even modern leadership structures where rulers are elevated as supreme guides mirror the divine kingship that models Egypt, that Egypt had perfected thousands of years ago. But Ra's greatest modern reflection was our understanding of cycles, day and night, seasons, life and death. So that idea that every sunset leads to renewal, even after struggle, is something humanity still holds on to, consciously or unconsciously, each and every day. And let me tell you, I live day by day. Thank you, Ra. Let me tell you, every day is sometimes a struggle. So that's Ra's very important, and whether or not you like are in the Egyptian culture, because of the connection that he has created amongst a lot of different cultures, not only Egypt, but like the transitioning throughout the years and, you know, merging of cultures. So yeah, he's got quite a bit of that understanding or that reverence. So Atum is known as the self-created one and the birth of gods. It sounded like I said Anun or eight or whatever that you said, right? Anat or something like that.
Atum?
Atum. What was the second person you spoke about?
Nanuet? Not Naunet?
When you were like trying to pronounce it, it sounded like you were trying to say Atum at some whatever.
Nope. I'm just real bad at pronouncing shit.
We them Midwestern hicks, that's what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. What the fuck? You had an R in that yeah.
Yeah.
It's fine. There's somebody at work that whenever they say dia, they say idea.
Yeah.
I'm like, you're from Connecticut. Why are you saying idea? And
you know,
whenever people say like the first name of the condo I work at, it's Myra, it's Mira. It's pronounced Mira. But like everyone's like, oh, Myra. And I was like, no. No, not. Okay, anyway, so Atum. So before the sun rose, before even time had a meaning, there was only one thing. Noon, the primordial waters. Look at that. An endless abyss thrilling with untapped creation, waiting for something or someone to emerge. And from that depth, Atum arose. So Atum is different, though. He was not born of others. He did not have parents. He did not answer to a higher force. King. He created himself, willing his own existence from nothingness, a divine singularity, a being who embodied both masculine and feminine forces. King again. The balance of all creation. He created himself. He is a drag queen.
oh my gosh.
From Atum, the first gods were formed. Shu, ooh, okay. Shu, air, and Tefnut, moisture. Tefnut means moisture. They in turn birthed Jeb. I don't know. It's kind of like the GIF or GIF. Like, is it a G or is it a J sound? And it's a J. It's GEB. So it's like, is it Geb or is it Jeb? I don't know. Earth and it's probably Newt. It's Atum, not so it's not nut. It's
Newt.
So Tefnut and Tefnut or Tefnut and Newt. Newt is sky. Okay, hold on. I keep sidetracking. Shu is air. Tefnut is moisture. Are you looking up the pronunciations?
No.
Oh, okay. Jeb, whatever. Earth and Newt is sky. Who then gave life to the gods we recognize today, such as Osiris, Isis, and Horus. Atum was both beginning and end. When the world eventually crumbles, it was believed Atum would reclaim all creation, returning the universe to its original abyss, only to begin again. So it's kind of like Ragnarok.
Okay.
I mean, Ragnarok was the end of like the Norse gods, but it was a time of rebirth and renewal.
Lily just creeped across the back.
She's just chilling. Just chilling down there. So the historical connection for Atum is that Atum's philosophy influenced Egyptian funerary beliefs. So death was not an end, it was simply a return to the cosmic cycle, waiting for rebirth. I love Egyptian, like their like just how they prepped their dead. I think it is so fascinating what they went through, like everything that they go through. It is so cool. So death was not an end, it was simply a return to a cosmic cycle waiting for rebirth. So it's very similar to like karma, like rebirth, recycle kind of stuff. But a little different. They basically walk in the realm of the dead until they decide to come back. That's why the Book of the Dead emphasized preparation for the afterlife, ensuring a seamless transition into a new existence. Atum also reinforced the idea that creation requires balance. So the presence of opposing forces, so like that masculine, feminine, life and death, chaos, order, was essential in maintaining the harmony. So that's kind of how it all goes. And like their funerary beliefs, they essentially take out major organs. So like the lungs, the brain, the heart, all of these things would be kept in little jars, and the jars would be buried with the mummy. And that way it can accompany them into the afterlife. If one is forgotten, then they don't have that organ in the afterlife, and it could mean that they don't get it at their rebirth cycle because it was something that was like whatever. And a lot of pharaohs and a lot of people who had money that were able to like mummify a lot of things, like I think there's a story of like a pharaoh that ma'am.
She doesn't want to talk about it.
And she really doesn't. Because listen, I'm about to talk about her. So it's
I
kind of one of
know.
those things that like if I was like pharaoh or whatever, I died, 9 times out of 10 they wouldn't just let their animals live. They would kill the animals
Take
so
them with
that
them.
they could go with them and help escort them in the afterlife. And then there would be people like guards, like trusted people that would essentially die with them so that they could help escort them throughout the like after whatever.
That's nuts. Like it's nuts.
And each jar has like their own like Osiris is like a specific organ, and then everybody else is a specific organ too, for whatever like reason behind all of that. But like that's basically their funerary beliefs, and that's kind of how things were like. That's why death was not an end, it was just the return to the general cycle of life. So you coming with me, girl? Yeah.
I love that she just said no.
Why not? You don't want to come with?
She
She's
said,
like,
"This bitch is crazy."
bitch, you die first. She's so cute. Anyway, so historical connection for Atum is that the creation requires balance. So the chaos and order, cosmic cycle kind of stuff. Now, the modern connection, Atom's self-creation is very similar to how we understand scientific theories about the Big Bang. So a moment where existence emerges from nothing. So he's essentially the Big Bang himself in like the Western ideas. Through mythology and science approach, though mythology and science approach is like to this subject is drastically different. The underlying theme of spontaneous creation remains deeply embedded in human thought. It's kind of like a spontaneous combustion.
I mean,
it just happens out of nowhere. So even today, Eastern philosophies emphasize balance, much like Atum's dual nature, the idea that opposites must coexist, that we must embrace darkness to understand light remains a universal truth. God damn it, tell Rebecca Yarros that bullshit for the next book. So yeah, that's a little bit about Atum. So he was the beginning of the end, essentially. Not beginning of the end, beginning and end. So the next thing is the emergence of gods and the divine connection to humanity. So creation wasn't an accident in Egyptian thought. It was very intentional, very structured. It was meant to push back against disorder. Again, that chaos disorder must have a balance. So the gods weren't just deities. They were forces of nature intertwined with humanity itself. Unlike distant, all-powerful gods in some religions, Egyptian gods walked among people, affected their daily lives, and could even be challenged. Pharaohs, the rulers of Egypt, weren't mere kings. They were living gods, embodying Ra's strength, ruling with Atum's wisdom, and ensuring that divine balance was maintained in the real world. So, like, they're like their messengers, essentially. So, and it's crazy, like, to think about this idea. And then I'm thinking about the DreamWorks movie of The Prince of Egypt, where he's like, you must smear lamb's blood, well, okay, that story, not that movie, but like that story, where if you don't smear lamb's blood across like the top of it, like the Holy Spirit will come by and murder your firstborn child. Bitch, I didn't grow up like that. Why do I get fucked up for that? Like, that's what I'm saying over here. Like, damn, that's the chaos.
It's not my fault.
I didn't ask for these. Anyways, so the pharaoh's connection to Ra ensured political stability. So Egypt's rulers were not just leading a nation; they were fulfilling that divine duty that Ra requested of them. Even in times of struggle, Ra's presence had legitimized their rule, reinforcing Egypt's social hierarchy for well over 3,000 years. And probably a lot more than that, but like a lot of records are not known prior to that. So for a modern connection, today the idea of divinely ordained rule kind of still exists, particularly in monarchies and that spiritual leadership. Leaders are elevated to near divine status, whether through lineage or belief, still reflect these ancient ideas. Kind of like when you vote, not vote in, not political like that, but how some people had voted in our current president because they felt like he was God's son, essentially. So beyond governance, Egyptian creation myths resemble modern debates about the universe's origin. Are we here by chance or by like underlying structure, or like is the world renewing themselves? The idea that order must emerge from chaos resonates in everything from science to philosophy, to the ways that societies build laws and govern. And it's also kind of like the black hole. Like, black holes literally are born from the chaos of that. It's a planet falling in on itself, and it sucks things in until it just can't anymore. And then it starts new. So it's kind of like that. Maybe that's Atum at work.
Could be. Could be.
Right. And I mean, again, Egyptians believed in the cycles, and even now humanity still repeats those patterns, those struggles, those rises, those falls, and begins again. History repeats itself. We see it all the time. We hear it all the time. That is a common phrase to speak about. And it's just basically, just as Ra has done with every dawn, you begin again. So yeah, basically, from blazing suns to that abyssal waters, Egyptian myths weren't just tales, they were blueprints for existence itself. So Ra ruled the sky, Atum forged reality, and the gods have shaped the world, which we will obviously get into more and more as we dive through this vast world, that's for sure. And their story is, whether true or not, have passed down through generations, have passed down through history, and through their drawings on walls. Or as Brandy likes to call it, their cave drawings.
Their cave paintings.
So yeah, it's kind of cool because like this is actually one of the most well documented ancient religions or mythology of like that we have thus far, or that we have studied thus far, I should say.
Yeah.
Because like even Norse is very ancient in a way.
Yeah.
So, oh, I'm so excited.
Me too.
Okay. Anyways, that's all from us today. So until next time.
Bye.